768. The heart is the most important thing, but a fuller version of this concept would be to say, the heart of the mind. Because let me put it this way, the mind alone is too harsh, and the heart alone, blazing with fire, can make itself uncomfortable when it doesn't know how to restrain itself. Combined together, they give comfort. But this is only the case in the cosmos, in these bodies. On the other side is only the heart, which does not need knowledge or development, because everything is open. It can know the magic of love and the beauty of all, without knowledge. Knowledge does not exist, there is no need for it. Heaven is hocus pocus, which gives worship, all comfort and boundless love to all forms and entities. 769. Only when you give up your love can you love others. Not the other way around, as some say. To ourselves we have so much love that it is better not to talk about it. We will always love ourselves. When something happens to us, we cry out even. Achieving perfection in love, it is not a simple process. At first it costs a lot of suffering. Those who have understood it will temporarily experience a kind of defeat, but after that it is only sweetness itself. 770. Freedom of choice. Intelligence caused some civilizations to follow after certain experiences the path of recognition of absolute energy. God, others chose independence. Progress, the philosophy of atheism, opposed to God. Life in the universe goes bipolar. This does not mean that it is going badly, but it could be going better, definitely. Some civilizations are turning around their own noses. Others have discovered God and are already doing something about it. We are a kind of bodily mutation. The body speaks to the soul through love. It is very easy for us, the earth civilization, to enter heaven. Others still do not. Convenience and wealth, technologies, precipitate them from thinking properly about the absolute. And they don't even recognize it. We, because of poverty and harsh conditions, follow faster. Jesus also thought about this and advised not to be too rich in this world. For as everyone already knows, wealth goes to a limited head. It's best to live a middle-class life. Because of great wealth and splendor, the church has fallen. Padre Pio's words. 771. There is good and evil in the material world. Everyone sees and experiences it. Good and evil interact with each other, giving human beings and very many creative civilizations in the universe a chance to grow rapidly. Evil, destruction. Protect the world from stagnation and backwardness. The forces of evil and the forces of good are created from the same energy. They were created as a result of programming us as beings endowed with freedom. But it didn't have to be that way. It happened. Evil appeared in the creation of private pleasurelands, or private heavens, after the original heaven came out. We all came out neon ages ago. Evil is completely unnecessary, hence everyone does not recognize it. However, we were forced by other civilizations to coexist with it. But beware, only until we reach a state of liberation through love, we will gain the original dwelling again, without polarization into good and evil. We will achieve the fullness of life. In heaven, yes, there is polarization, but only on the enchantments of loving and gentle love. Where there was harm and evil, God did not put his hand to it. And the whole universe suffers and sighs in birth pains. Who then is its author? 772. An important form of love, a very important one, is tolerance and forgiveness of one another, in spite of the law and detailed human rules. Deep love looks broadly in spite of everything. I know how difficult this is. A loving heart is an open and tolerant heart. Let's not forget, the law came about as a result of the lack of supply of free energy to all the existing civilizations in the cosmos, the so-called private heavens. Angelic gods, whose spiritual consciousness and perception changed to the detriment of a happy life. We must lovingly reverse this tendency. Everyone has to form himself and knows that he has to pay for the evil. He will repeat lesson after lesson, life after life, until he purifies himself. 773. The Bible unfortunately lies and deceives. There are a lot of lies there and even alterations of those lies. There is hardly any truth there. Written by the Jews from beginning to end for the capture of the entire human world. In addition, largely cloned from older civilizations, also not the best. Then where do stigmata in saints come from? For example, in Saint Francis of Assisi or Saint Padre Pio, who, by the way, is my greatest protector and friend, and thanks to him I just have the knowledge I have. First thing, Jesus and the Bible are two diametrically opposed directions and truths. The Bible about Jesus hypocrites everything. Someday the Vatican will admit it when it makes the true records public. About those stigmata words, simple. As in marriage, when a couple loves each other, they resemble each other. The same is true in the human-animal relationship. A dog will become like its owner, or vice versa. It is the same with stigmata. If one is in love with Jesus, the great lover and philosopher, he will resemble him even in what he himself dramatically had to experience. He will receive these stigmata as a memento, as an expression of great mystical love. But not everyone can love Jesus in this way, for his knowledge and relentlessness in promoting the civilization of love. Of course, they are not meant for everyone. Love, even that human sensual, has lost a little of its value. One probably needs to relearn human divine love. 774. People experience an elevation of their consciousness. They are awakened to the perception that they are truly eternal beings. This wonderful radiation of the knowledge of the heart causes in us an inestimable joy and peace that is not found in the common life, characterized by work, artificial duties, and excessive care, which destroys certainty and stability rather than enhances it. This is why Jesus taught, "Strive forward for the kingdom of God and for his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Therefore, do not be overly concerned about tomorrow. In the potential of illusions, reciprocation of the infused prism, into the similar attention of accusation to the general timeliness of cognition in the external state of concentrated basis of the dialogue in the highest degree of independent certainty, to capture the motivation, thanks to the potential balance of selective layers of human conscience, comes to intuitive cognitive cunning, which, as a result, is a high interlocked factor of the formation of delusion. In this context also lies the importance of transformation of the activity of ideas, in which the initial situation of theoretical phenomena of universalism dominates. Few people manage to see the transcendental nozzle of biochemistry. Most are deluded. What then, to add to the generally inspired view of the non-existence of supreme reason? Is the crisis just a law of nature? Is the proof the energy intake of cellular permits? Is attraction a gene that gives consciousness a sweet feeling of spirit? Don't delude yourself. Love is to reign. 775. To understand consciousness, to act in accordance with the forces of nature, it is necessary to first learn about own relationship with the supreme energy, through which everything exists, even the infernal planets. One who has possessed perfect knowledge knows that every human being is an eternal seeker of love, and must consistently act in this consciousness in order to realize it. Every conscious being aims at this goal, to become eternal love. All other attitudes and pursuits that are not in harmony with this consciousness are contributors to the lives of hell. We are talking about the cosmos and the mental states caused by its cause. For there is no heaven in the universe, and the soul becomes a disappointment even to love here. However, in order to bring a little bit of heaven into the cosmos, it is necessary to know oneself, because heaven is in our soul imagination, also in its external form. Despite the bad cosmic material conditions, you can feel it, and now. But only feel it, it will never be full participation. The present body and its senses and all the pleasures associated with it cannot provide its full experience. This is guaranteed only by the divine body and the divine original heaven, for which we are patiently waiting, and perhaps even impatiently. 776. If the acquisition of knowledge, skills any, does not teach humanitarian values, then science does not make the slightest sense. It is unnecessary. It multiplies selfishness. One could say more. It causes wars and disasters on a global scale. That is why it is so important to combine science with personal love, as the basis of all culture. 777. Never in schools or universities should education be half-hearted. Education has the task of opening up all the treasures of knowledge. Science and love are no obstacle here. On the contrary, love opens the inspiration of science, sets its bar higher and higher. To separate love and science, as has been done in some countries, is to undo education and undercut education enormously. This is not about taking a test on love of the soul at the high school graduation. By no means. It's about the ability to combine common scientific humanistic knowledge with mystical knowledge. The ability to understand it in the context of own personal life, to shape own views, career and skills, to relate it to the formation within oneself of universal values, positive towards the human person and the surrounding world. Love, soul, science should form a unity, just as the many senses of our body form a unity. 778. Technologically advanced civilizations do not waste their energy, so they cannot be detected, because no part of their energy escapes into official space. One such civilization created people as body souls, so to speak, because souls could not be worked out apart from God. A group of scientists today associated under the name God the Father decided to create synthetic life. They made a scientific discovery and created a miraculous being, making it similar to themselves. And besides, through various attempts, they have created a multitude of animals, insects, etc., which today we call an insane food chain. The scientists, the angels beyond heaven, finally, after many complicated attempts, created humans as their subrace in their laboratories. They were very happy with this achievement. The results of the research work had already allowed them to do so, to perform such an amazing act of scientific creation. But let me remind you, all the creators of bodies, not souls, are angels, who once came out of heaven. They play with souls, giving them bodies of one kind or another, so that the cosmos created by them can continue to exist. And we like our bodies, however they are very imperfect and dying. Jesus, a great thinker and spiritual philosopher, pointed out that the form of this universe is passing away, and there is nothing to get our hopes up. Heaven will never be here, and there was no paradise here, the words of Padre Pio. Jesus pointed out where it could be, and what conditions must be met to be able to see and enjoy it. The church, atheists, artists, scientists, free thinkers, etc. They have no clue what the true reality is and what Jesus, the most outstanding philosophical mystic in this universe, talked about. A universe over which Saint Michael the Archangel watches over with his celestial army, not violating our freedom in any way. It turns out that freedom is our greatest flaw. This is also what Padre Pio suggested to me. This is evident from various dictators, including the European Union, which has assembled prominent spiritual schizophrenics in its parliament. I'm not talking about all of them. This is the spell of the fallen angels, to which we, unfortunately, also belong. But if we follow Jesus' suggestions, we will abandon this Jewish philosophizing over existence. Was Jesus a Jew? He was, because he wanted to incarnate for the paralytic Jewish pharaonic Sumerian priesthood, to help them. It didn't work out. Tough luck, but he knew how to be a sign of defiance. And therein lies his greatness. In the human body DNA and scientific psyche that was crammed into our gray cells in ancient times. Jesus knew how to master this and go beyond. He is the most perfect model for us to follow his way of thinking. The crazies will disagree with this. But in the end, after the cycles of reincarnation, there is a chance to stop being crazy. Freedom, or attribute of bankruptcy. 779. Strength above all is in the tears of awe. There are layers of the unexplored there. The visualization of the world is a holographic illumination, which to people at the level of deepest desires does not give full satisfaction, because it is too modest. It is necessary to start with the touch of the hand. 780. Heaven is nothing but a way to surprise. That is why we are so attracted to its idea of majesty, of showing the charms of thoughts and feelings, beautiful costumes. As in humans, likewise. 781. Joy. and freedom is a refreshing well. We have a consciousness that always needs this water. 782. This world is a fiasco, but you can create and possess a bow strained to release an arrow. Be careful, it can pierce you too. You won't even notice when, and you fall to your knees, enchanted by the vision. 783. Quantum by quantum, and beyond the quantum only love begins. It changes the movement of all energies, so that you can go crazy at it. 784. Everyone wants to give others what they have the most beautiful in themselves. Love is incalculable in its exclusivity. 785. Evil hatred. This is another side of love and good. This, of course, was not supposed to happen. The consensus is that freedom just caused it. Evil and good are the same energy, but opposite. Bad love is ultimately jealous, possessive, depressive, in the end hateful. And hatred is known mental and physical destruction. Such is ultimately the environment of goodness in this world. Unfortunately, many will disagree with this. They will not agree because spiritual stagnation has taken over their true spiritual intelligence. And they do not see reality as they should see it. This is not entirely their fault. Many galactics, rebel civilizations, are working on this fault. Let us not be broken by views and hatred. Our goal is peace, love, and nothing else. Eternal heaven is yet to come. There will never be him in the cosmos. It is necessary to work here to minimize anxiety and all evil. Complete happiness, already without disease, death, suffering, will come only later. As long as we save ourselves during this life. If not, we'll wait for the next one. Maybe then we'll get it. 786. In the galaxies on their various lands planets, evil has appeared. It appeared because of the lack of energy supply for life, and because of the quarrels of the angels of different races. But there is a world of ideas there too, just like with us. But these are only ideas. Reality can be brutal. Even Plato talked about it. Freedom has caused our attempts to deprive ourselves of God. And worlds were created from which it was impossible to withdraw later. The angels, creators of alternate universes to the eternal heaven, still don't give up their scientific knowledge, and they should. They maintain these universes by force, because they have become attached to them, like a shirt. Man has a similar problem as a degraded angel, but the soul on the lower planets suffers more. Its body dies quickly, so it ponders and grows wiser slowly. There, higher up, in high technocratic civilizations, there is no shadow of humility. They live for millions of years each. They still think they have eaten all their wits. There are glimpses of tolerance and humility in the lower lands. Those from above cannot comprehend it. They themselves have cast us down into lower civilizations for rebelling against them. And we are beginning to acknowledge our original parents. Wonderful! Through hard experiences, we have already let go a little. Despite this, however, there is still much to work through spiritually. The body does not matter. It always only serves the spirit. No matter how wise and erotic it may be, it is mindless. It is the soul that decides everything, how we love and how we think. The most important thing for happiness is consciousness and its spiritual value. 787. Our soul caught a virus long ago. It possesses a serious flaw, the words of Padre Pio, which to this day has prevented it from eternal pleasures in heaven for millions of years. She became entangled herself. After leaving heaven, in humans it is already better. In the great angels of the galaxies, sheer hell of incivility despite the incredible technology, which does not break down as quickly as with us. But what of technology? How does the spirit decay for them? Luxurious and attractive Satanists. 788. Freedom is there, but the choice is not entirely yours. The Galactic Federation commune dominates us in space, and the scope of freedom is weak because of this. The tricky part, they control both birth and death. Only selfless love is out of their control. Mystical delight is alien to them, and we can already do it. Only the love of the soul to God. This saves us at the moment of death and beyond. It may sound unbelievable, but it is so. Are we prepared with love for the death of the body, to talk about it with God at the moment of death. Not yet everyone has the opportunity to do so, because they have locked themselves in the dark coffin of consciousness. Someday they will open up, and everything will change for them in a very positive way. 789. You can notice in every soul a lover and a mistress, a wife, a husband, a beautiful angel, and all love's raptures. You can notice the angel, which wins for you on the harp of his wonderful senses, love and pleasure indescribable. Imagination is the vision, the touch of the soul, everything can, like God, because she is God in us. Imagination is the palace of your pleasures, which you can experience and make real on the strings of life in different ways. This is how it is in heaven. On earth there are still serious problems with love and seeing real tales of happiness. 99% of material energy discourages our spirit to love. Only in heaven is it real. In space there is only kolkhoz and slavery. We ourselves wanted it. We ourselves have to free ourselves from it. In order to preserve freedom, Jesus is only a signpost on this highway of life. Humans have broken it themselves. They themselves must fix it. Padre Pio's words. 790. Heaven is teamwork. Jesus, the one emanating team of minds of light. It may sound strange, but there is something to it. Love is the ecstasy of pleasure. No light is meaningless if it does not give satisfaction and delight. Raw light without feelings, emotions, excitement of the soul has no value. Many aliens in different planetary systems, galaxies, experience this all the time, without any result for spiritual growth. That's why we often call them devils, stripped of the heat of true love. But the great mystics, humble souls seeking truth, they got to the bottom of things and experienced real love from heaven on earth. 791. There is a lot of negligence. This must be admitted, and most negligence has the Catholic Church, so mine too. It has simply collapsed completely, as in the days of Francis of Assisi. Instead of preaching love and brotherhood, it is engaged in religious ideology, giving childish homilies, organizing low-value pilgrimages, etc. And where is the happiness, mysticism, and delight of life? Priests haven't married since the 10th century, so they focused on suffering. Mistake. They should go back to the roots, as it was in the first centuries. Peter had a wife and many other apostles did the same. Priests should have women like any normal man. Today the church deals with business, weddings, baptisms, sacraments, and does not pay attention at all to man, to his physical and spiritual needs. It educates people in theology, which is really worthless, overly ideological. Not to mention Christian philosophy, not worth a pound of fangs. Deception often unconscious. The Vatican has shares in various powerful companies, including armaments. It itself owns huge warehouses like hypermarkets in our country, and trades. It even pulls in profits from the gas stations it owns. What has gone wrong? He uses an adulterated Bible all the time, not revealing the full truth. And the priests value themselves more than the kings. What horrors! Bishops no longer go out to the people. They are ashamed of their wealth. They twirl the rings on their fingers in their palaces, not knowing what to do with themselves. Padre Pio's words. By criticizing, I mean no harm. By pointing out mistakes, I am actually defending the church. Because today it is needed, and in this form. I value the church only because of the great philosopher, thinker, and mystic Jesus, who said the most important sentence of the world. Love your neighbor as yourself. I regard the rest as garbage in the church, fit to be burned. 792. When St. Francis of Assisi's colleagues, while he was away, placed a modern tile on their residence, Francis climbed onto the roof upon his return and threw it to the ground with great gusto. He did not allow the brothers to live more richly than the people in the village. These churches have gone completely stupid. One of the most important to me, in these recent times greats in the church, is St. John Bosco, founder of the first vocational schools in the world. A protector of marginalized children. He is a practical saint, but his actual writings were also burned along with his house. All that's left of him are his pious thoughts, which as usual were crafted. Anyway, I will always defend my church. 793. To begin with, God allows the soul to taste Him in this world by seeing beauty, mountains, flowers, etc. But if the soul wants to go further, it has to give it all up. For this next period, it is difficult for her, because she doesn't feel God and often blames herself for her sins, because they are probably, she thinks, the reason for her dryness and night experiences. But there is nothing to blame. God is what draws the soul to higher sensations. But first the soul must forget well the previous ones, those low spiritual joys. Weaning the child from the breast ends in crying. So it is here too. Unfortunately, few souls desire higher perfection and remain at the level of mind and human feelings. Human life is only the beginning of opening to eternity. Everything is ahead of us, exploring new places of heaven. 794. This is the first law of honest and joyful conduct in any society. To open the doors of the soul is, after all, to open a library with new knowledge about the improvement of human character. This is the knowledge of the destiny of life, the knowledge of love and pleasure, which leads upward. And, by the way, helpful in life, practical through technologies that facilitate momentary existence here. 795. Politics is a material option of one side of spirituality. Politics is formed by people, characters, habits, philosophy of thinking, concepts on social life. Politicians are also spiritual, but today they have somewhat forgotten this. They promote too much selfishness and privatism. 796. The moment people understand that there are no other chances of success for building the ideal structure of statehood than by perfecting man in love, only then will real progress begin. And if people become convinced of this, they will make the public media available, so that the truth about the perfection of the human inner self will be proclaimed to the public as a program for achieving stability and universal prosperity. 797. An important, and even the first of all transformations, must be a change in the way we think and in our attitude to life. Our future will depend on everyone's progress in a new way of understanding the world. We can only get rid of views in one way, by putting everything under the control of the divine consciousness. And we should connect to it, like physical love. 798. There are no effects without causes in this world. Love multiplies love. Intolerance multiplies hate. We need just such a worldview, tolerance, and the pursuit of knowledge of nobility. Yes, we will ask about culture and religion, which can collide together, leading to conflicts. Therefore, all religions should be told to give up their dogmas. True love is non-denominational, universal, like the love of human angels in bed. While caressing and making love, does anyone think about the world's religions, views, and philosophies? So let's stick to facts, what gives life, not bizarre views that lead to hatred and separation. It is not easy to learn nobility and tolerance. Jesus was remarkably merciful in these matters, but also specific toward subversives who destroy the peace. 799. The promoters of the perfect state must be spiritual rapture, from which a good system of love arises. Love must be applied to all political and social activities. On it depends the understanding of the physical and spiritual genetics of evil, but also both the eternal love. One cannot fight nature and disregard everyone and everything. Everything is precious, even if it is created by angels, what came down from heaven into the cosmos. This understanding means nothing less than true civilization progress, which will lead us to prosperity and relative peace on earth, and then lead us to eternal heaven. 800 Fable. The little turtle, with great eagerness and curiosity, climbed the small hills. He expected that there, on one of them, he would find his true destiny. Something inside irresistibly pulled him to see the big world. He always longed to be a level above. He felt that something strange was happening in his life. For a turtle, he had great skills and exceptional aspirations. He was not afraid of new challenges. But his interests did not match his turtle nature at all. Everything pointed to the fact that the soul living inside him by mistake ended up in the wrong body. An ordinary turtle doesn't think that way. Well, but what could the poor turtle do about it? Nothing. He lived on with an increased intelligence quotient and waited patiently until life would one day lead him to the right fairy tale. He missed it dearly. He climbed the hills and hills patiently, hoping that's where he would find her. 801. We should care about food with a high standard of production, organic, exclusively based on natural products, guaranteeing the healthy quality of the human mind. Pills and chemicals destroy the body. So what are they encouraging in TV ads about health? A lie to the power. No one with pills on their backs was born. All you need is to eat well and at least 2 eggs a day. In them are all the medicines of the world. Why don't they advertise eggs on TV? Because the pharmaceutical corporations would collapse. Eggs are health itself. We would avoid doctors, queues at the clinic and hospitals. It's worth the interest. Television has gone crazy. They don't look at human health. They brand death instead of health. They see only money, sponsorship from advertising. Hypocrisy. As on the other hand, Padre Pio also said, we are already so poisoned that sometimes only a chemical pill can help a person. It is necessary to weigh. Purity and humility, Lord. You don't need wealth or special poverty or any rationale to possess true love. What are our possessions and opinions when we will not have love? For true love, humility and meekness are needed above all else. If we don't have that, nothing from our innate talents and earned money, Lord, only your humble love reveals all the secrets. Concerning human happiness, money, the right prosperity will not provide anything. Everything is a limitation except your love. We can establish many laws of dogma, of scientific distinctions in various fields of knowledge. And if we lack humility and pure goodness, we will so scorn Lord, the one possesses the true, right, and will possess it everywhere, who got rid of false asceticism, abandoned crimes in thought, and acceded to pure delightful love. 802. Final love is not the human body and its senses. The senses are only like electrodes of the soul. All the pleasures of the world, all intimate encounters between women and men, are received by the soul, not the body. Everyone strangely forgets this. They even say that they do not believe in the soul, and they use it in all matters. It is worth consciously loving the soul. The body will then benefit 100 times more from this offer. The soul is the basis of all the pleasures of the world. Why does the world renounce it? Does love no longer have reason? It has, only it is necessary to pay attention to it. 803. Love is not an intellect, nor a will, nor a shy feeling. Love is divinity, a delight that cannot be described. The senses of the body are a pale imitation. True love is a divine body, divine cognition, divine willing. Man is very different from the angel in heaven. He differs precisely in love, its greatness and selflessness. Imperfect man, preoccupied with his own reason and selfishness, will never understand the love of higher beings. Divine love is enviable, sweet, quiet in its splendor, and at the same time feisty as rock and roll. 804. Human, jealous, selfish love will never lead to success and liberation. What is constantly needed in the human situation is a renewal of spirituality, a renewal of mad love, a resolute and pure culture of enchantment. Love is like a fun chamber, a ball of disinterested singles, but also the charm of couples. 805. When we look at modern people, we notice among them a great confusion, a confusion of values, an inability to judge what is the best advantage in the world for a person. What can this be indicative of? There is one explanation for this, and it is 100% certain. They have departed from the love of the heart. They do not seek the path of true love in their lives. They skip the philosophy of sweet happiness. That's why it's worth seeking ideal values to be satisfied and at peace with your life full of hope. 806. There are no real managers of the soul today, because there is no need for them either. The soul guides itself to the goal. All it needs is to suggest knowledge to it and give it a little love. The school actually gives everything one needs. But still, to this school should be added more soft love, and everything will be fine. One who feels goodness and soft love already knows where to go. Awareness, awe, admiration, adoration of the pleasures of the world and man will draw everyone to the hereafter. In spite of the walk, it will lead to the true ideas of happiness. 807. Where there is hatred, introduce love. Where there is sadness, give joy. Where there is doubt, hope. Where there is harm, unity. And not so much to seek consolation, but to give consolation. This was reminded by Saint Francis of Assisi, 12th century. How beautiful love is. It not only gives delight to soul and body, but also heals the wounds of soul and body. 808. If you would like to get closer to objective truth, or even to the truth as it really is, you must give up all the truths your mind has developed up to now. The heart doesn't need the truth, because it knows it through the feeling of love, immediately the moment your heart twitches. The mind, the navigator of misery, needs logical truths. You can do without them, but how? If you want to be convinced and right? Well then, to get closer to the truth, you must leave the rationales of the mind, enter a state higher than the truths of reason. The source will open up. From now on, you will not judge anyone, condemn anyone, instruct anyone, or claim that your truth counts the most. You will give up truths in favor of a good heart. It will explain to you what the hidden thing is. And presumably it will say yes. Heaven is seen tangibly with the eyes of the heart and touched by the body of consciousness. 809. You ignited me, God, the moment you created me in your noble way. So I'm on fire inside and out with consciousness and feeling. And there is no way to extinguish that flame. Even the most raw souls in the cosmos possess the same fire. That's why they live and yearn in their subconscious, so that their fire of happiness can burn as before. 810. The angels in the cosmos, that is, and we who once came out of heaven unnecessarily, will eventually let go of our ignorance and desire to constantly circle the galaxies to seek love, wealth, contentment. As we have already experienced, this cannot be achieved in the antefairy cosmos. It is necessary to break away from the myth of the cosmos and enter the original cosmos, heaven. How does one enter there? Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven. Love God and your neighbor as yourself." The material cosmos does not help in love. Jesus urged to leave it once and for all. Find the energetic cosmos in beautiful light forms, without qualities that God created for everyone. This cosmos of ours was created by ourselves. As you can see, it is not very successful. Actually, everyone dies in it. The earth absorbs us and drinks our blood. Something must be done with our lives. There is nothing left to do but to teleport after our last death to the original heaven, which even Plato mentioned in his ideas. Salvation is very important to us, actually the most important thing, to end the dying and the constant suffering in the forms of mental and material qualities. 811. It would be most wonderful if our reasons were those of selfless love. Jesus never pushed his beliefs. Rather, he listened, nodded, understood, smiled, forgave, encouraged tolerance, harmony, and peace, which is the basis of a good life. The earthly philosophy of being is constantly fighting. Politicians are fighting, and everyone else. Even the church fights with other churches, denominations, theologies. For what? For the truth which will not be fully known anyway. Is it worth destroying, killing each other over ignorance? And so what if you are right? Have it for yourself. Think in your own way, but don't impose anything on others. Padre Pio's words. 812. God in creating the soul is also its provider. Otherwise, I suppose it would not have survived very long. Creation does not have eternal life. After great cosmic adventures, consciousness based on freedom in heaven, we ourselves hid from God. And he, nevertheless, blasts it with sapphires of inspirational beauty, talents and energies of joy. He is as faithful as a dog to every angel, man good or bad. I think I did not get much wrong what I wrote here. 813. Mainly we should be interested in the qualities of the soul like Saint Francis of Assisi. He considered money as stones by the roadside. The time will probably come when biorobots will replace humans in hard work. Everyone will get vouchers for purchases so large that they will live in luxuries, almost like in heaven. They will tour, travel, do allotments, gardens, raise children, their own spirituality, education in general, culture, art, etc. The surrounding material security will be done by robots. This has been the case on other planets for a long time. And indeed, stones will be a luxury to have them in the garden. This social system is already slowly coming into effect, but it is only the beginning. Joy, beauty, and comfort will open people's eyes, and they will desire with great force to return to the eternal heaven from which they once awkwardly left and are still penetrating the universe in search of the lost one. Unfortunately, there is none in the galaxies. There is only momentary pleasure, and we need constant, eternal pleasure. Through human comfort, the absence of hard work, we will perceive the riches of the eternal heaven. Human pleasures are an incentive to seek heaven. 8:14. Love is such a crazy joy and satisfaction that you have to tame it all the time and make it simultaneously explosive, passionate, surprising, attractive. Otherwise, she would be too numb, like a heavenly person. Even in heaven, it is necessary to restrain oneself not to become pushy. But I prefer to be pushy than to yawn forever. Because of my insistence, they will eventually let themselves be saturated with what is in their souls. I think so. 8:15. The soul is free, so it must continue to be given, so that it can live. In giving lies the secret of joy. Giving, gratuity. Here is the key to your eternal palace of delight. True balance. If man in the openness of his heart accepts the supernatural order of things and preserves in his soul the true relations of spirit and matter, and if he directs his longings only towards the truth when he sincerely in prayerful and poetic exaltation climbs upwards, he will reach true steadiness. And if he becomes sensitive in conscience to misconduct, he will create a new order based on contentment, peace of heart, and sublimity. Lord, who seeks the greatest charm of reason, creative humanity, will bring out this sanctuary. 816. Fable. A happy dog lay comfortably on the green grass and thought to himself, "Ah, these people, how perpetually busy they are. They work hard. They devote almost all their time to some supposedly important things. And I'm lying around thinking about blue almonds. I'm fine. I don't worry about anything. I'll occasionally fast, chase friends, play, and it's great. I don't need anything else. Fate has gifted me with freedom without limits. I don't have to work, and food of some kind can always be found. Can I complain? Absolutely. When I look at tired people, I feel sorry for them sincerely. I almost never see them cheerful or smiling. They are not lounging on the grass like me, for example, right now. Everything around them stresses and upsets them. They don't enjoy anything, even though they possess so much. These people. If I had to choose to be a human or a dog, I would again choose the life of a dog. Sometimes I think I understand more than them. Yes, I would definitely choose the life of a dog. It doesn't hurt that a human lives longer. Longevity does not mean happiness. I, for one, am happy, although I don't belong to the long-lived ones. I still wonder why such a beautiful being as man, supposedly very wise, made a colorful fairy tale out of a black and white one. 8:17. What is certain is that all degeneration comes from specific causes. People err and the systems created by them err, and these errors are passed on to the next generation. Blame the rulers, the politicians who have a fundamental influence on people's attitudes. One politician talks about the heaven of freedom and prosperity for all, and another only about the bread of power for himself, without patriotism. One about a vital issue, and the other clings to the socks his competitor is performing in. That's the way it is. You can see it especially today in politicians, journalists, publicists, shaped by post-communist pseudo-modernism. And the church? The same. It talks too little about unity, forgiveness, too few warm words, and too many regulations, hermetisms, and dogmas. Doesn't the Pope walk around in red shoes? This also somehow depraves, breeds conflicts of opinion, social, family. It also so happens that, through one man a whole nation, a country can fall, Padre Pio's words. And through a party leader, the whole party falls. because they are no longer able to think differently from the chairman. They generally do it out of fear of being excluded, pushed away from the cool club of colleagues and money. Virtue doesn't count. What counts is aggression and conquering the forties of power. All it takes is a false example, a false law, a false constitution, and people will follow like sheep to the slaughter. Germany and France are good examples of this. There, the collapse in the name of freedom is complete. And the Islamic State, in the name of freedom, their contrived commandments and God, they have reached for weapons. This is worse than a collapse. It's hell inside hell. It turns out that conversion is still relevant. And America, Asia, and Europe need it right now. 818. The state is supposed to care with all the consistency of universal love for all and the freedoms of its citizens, to exhort them. At the same time, the individual man should not lock himself into his constitutions of hatred, complaining, imperfection. If the state sets a good example, its citizens will praise their country and will do their best not to harm anyone, including those ruling their nation. 819. This is what a good constitution, education, mass media are for, to make society ideal. The means of influence should be used not for the ego of power, but for the improvement of the individual soul, social group, family. If the power of the media fights mainly with itself, being misdirected through the coercion of manipulation and false information, deceived facts in the realm of concepts and words and touch of reality, then it must be said that this is not love. 820. It is necessary to redefine the passion of power and money and the media in general, in order to methodically and concretely undertake a reflection from which would come the pull of the true emanation of power for the common good. Noble culture, in our case dualistic, is the core of knowing the philosophy of being. This is why theater, art, painting, photography, music are so important, because they constitute our individual identity, whose task is ultimately to understand the mind of God. 821. This is what salvation is about, to move away from the cells of our temporary body, given to us in the propaganda of the cosmos as our heaven. After all, it is known that this is a classic, rational, physiologically based, developing to our detriment existential fallacy. And so it came out in this idea of a comical life apart from God. It was supposed to be wonderful. We were fooled. It came out uninteresting. Instead of rejoicing, everyone must moan and whine in pain. This is the lost paradise. 822. Without politicians and law, without the rule of law and spiritual tolerance, it is impossible to live in the modern world. This is the unequivocal truth. This is the reality. We do not live in the bush with primitive tribes, with all due respect for their personal freedom, living on a natural reservation. With them, there are also laws, and strict ones at that, sometimes stricter than our constitution and parliamentary laws. Authentic love regulates all postulates, fundamental discourses, philosophical discourses, in the deep feeling and need of absolute necessity, that this subtle love will necessarily soothe our identifications with the delight of existence, every day and in eternity. Where does the law come from? Not from culture, but from ancient sin, so St. Paul teaches us. From sin came law as the fruit of delicious freedom. 823. The notion of independence and freedom of speech does not mean that we are moving forward in improving life. Rather, the opposite is true. Choosing the views of different philosophers and following their ideas does not positively and effectively break the growth of life energy. Although we intuitively know what we need to do in relation to our freedom and its understanding. However, the most important thing is the example of those in power. The state gives and creates the conditions for development, and the only way to do this is through the education of citizens in cultural and universal values, built on a transcendental basis. Transcendence holds hope like no other. It should be understood that only love directs comprehensive development. Love, therefore, is nothing evil and need not be feared. On the contrary, 824. Unfortunately, hubris conquers all areas of social life. It is most prevalent where we least expect it. We look at it with round eyes, see it and praise it. Sometimes we try to please her. It also happens that we seemingly fight it, oppose it, and forget, and do not see that we ourselves are absorbed in its charm. One has to use great intelligence to unmask its habitat within oneself. It is most prevalent in the intelligentsia spheres. Unfortunately, this is why scientists and authority figures so easily turn our heads. They blind our inner vigilance. It is the same with politicians. We would follow them into the fire. And for what? 825. Pride, complacency, closed heart and mind to smiling universal values is the wrong prism for development. Pride is a false beauty and attracts others with great ease, under the guise of beauty and goodness, creating own boisterous intelligence. Thinking, even valuable intentions can transform into something unfavorable to others. Pride has at its disposal great human energy because it is located in the ego. It conquers the mind, feelings, and will, making a human being very logical, such as a scientist or a drunkard. Pride does not know how to love. That is why it is so easy to spot. It appears in the experience of self-interest, mainly privateness, revealing itself on various occasions as a conscience of right and justice. But is this conscience righteous? Perhaps destroyed. For a long time? 826. Without a vision of our eternal existence, of course, there is no deeper meaning to any mortification, even going to church. For what purpose? To please people. It is necessary to be hot or cold, regardless of views and beliefs. Only when the soul understands where it has been for billions of years, in what cosmic enslavement, prison, then it will separate in consciousness the cognition of its situation, beyond views and reality, and set itself to the true church of the spirit, which will greatly help this soul to regain its longed-for fairy tale. 827. Leaders of states, presidents, kings, they do not have much choice among the various alternatives to rule. For happiness and prosperity lie in the benefits of love alone. And love also means various important and less important duties, selflessness, thinking of others, doing good to everyone, reliability in work, keeping laws and regulations that build prosperity for everyone. And it is only possible to do so through self-restraint, giving priority to the noblest of love, pursuing the pleasures of material life, and then eternal life. In other words, pursuing the amusement of life. Salvation means having fun. In the case of the galaxies, where we all live as fallen angels, what came out of heaven? We have fun only after our kolkhoz duties. In the case of heaven, the fun goes on constantly, and whenever we feel like it. It doesn't even have to sleep. Because no one ever sleeps there. There is no night. For romantic moments, the night can be ordered. There everything is possible, not like in rigid galaxies, and all the planets inhabited by different civilizations of angels. There are no limitations. The only limitation is love without measure. In heaven one does not need anything, one does not need anything, one only wants. Padre Pio's words. He further added, "In you everything is possible." I thought, in every soul everything is possible. And it is true. Let no one feel lesser or greater. We are insanely equal. The only difference between us is a moment of forms of colorful wanting delight. And that adds to the flirtation of the divine. 828. The restoration of human consciousness cannot be constantly delayed. The glow of love must be restored to spirit and body. And for this to happen globally, you need spiritual, social structures of the state. Love is social, caring, warm, gentle, and material in a cosmic dimension. The state is needed like a home, so that one can grow in the heart. It is equally important who governs such a state. 829. Living in the cosmic heavens, in the galaxies, on material, impermanent planets, does not mean that one cannot have private property on them. One can and even should have. There is privacy in the original heaven. Everyone has their palaces. But it is necessary to love to know how to share, not to be selfish. The state is to help, to take care, as God takes care of all heaven. To put out a hand for consent, as God first put out a hand to the angels for consent. to enable them to return from the galaxies to the lands of love and eternity. 8:30. Young people think that they will always be beautiful and young. Then they can afford a lot, and surprise. Wrinkles, general failure due to old age. Youth would pass so quickly. Impossible. And yet, 8:31. Man is a former beautiful angel, but today he is only human. He was demoted for disobeying the ideology of the angelic galactic federation. The angel was in heaven, of course, but he wanted to create his own heaven. He did just that. He created the cosmos for this purpose. We took part in this project billions of years ago. However, life was lived in quarrels and hatred. In the end, for reflecting too deeply philosophically on the meaning of such a life, they decided to expel us from their midst, casting us off to a tiny planet Earth. This is where we have been born and died for some time. Jesus, our colleague from heaven, looked into this earth and made us think even more about returning to the original heaven. He offered us a good and beneficial deal for us, salvation. Return to the eternal home. It is worth following in his footsteps. 8:32. The state is supposed to love its citizens and prosecutors and judges, more to forgive than to convict. The state is supposed to teach, set an example, is supposed to function as a parent, not put people in prisons. When it teaches love, prisons will become the exception. There wouldn't be so many accidents on the roads either, if love was the queen of our hearts. Love will prompt, drive slower, and so in everything, and at every turn. Love of neighbor should be our motto of life. What is needed is a humble, wise boss in the state who knows perfectly well the principles of life based on love. 8:33. Maintaining joy, smiles, and non-aggression, logic of conduct. This is the basis of a solid spiritual and state system. No one has invented a better one. A system of inner love, extending to any body, is the basis for clear social and economic actions. Those who do not preserve love most often become opportunists or acquire the traits of tumovism, or end up in mafias, evil organizations, unreliable parties, in military organizations, and above all, do not control themselves and cause unnecessary additional evils, of which there are many anyway. 8:34. The soul needs the actions of love. If the body does not grasp this, and does not provide it with this nectar, it swims towards the shallows. The world wants to love, but it does not know what this true love expresses as. There is great confusion in this regard. Often ideologies convince that they are love. Rather, it is not, certainly not that. That's why it's so important to have good, light-hearted love and respect from it, for people and the whole world. Today this is forgotten, so a lot of aggression is born, fighting for own rights and reasons. Love forgives and overlooks this, preferring to live not with problems, but with the pleasures of friendship. Therefore, it is necessary to remind what love is, especially for those in power and business owners. Love is respect, elegance, and joy, in every way. 8:35. Material life does not need to be excessively developed, so much insofar as, rather, it should be balanced for higher purposes. The idea of the soul is not solely material development, because why should it? The idea of the soul is the completeness of divine feelings, seeing the beauty of the infinite. And this pleases it. And cognition, love as eternal entertainment. Development, that is, improvement of memory, intelligence of the brain, is the domain of galactic civilizations, that is, and us. Doomed to energy limitations. 8:36. The fullness of the soul's happiness is fun, curiosity, joy. What does a child do? It would constantly play. That's why the great philosopher Jesus said that if we want to be happy, we must learn to play with life, just like a child does. Unless you become as these children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. So what is left for us besides temporary duties? Fun. Otherwise we won't see heaven, traveling, exploring, dancing, loving, books, etc. Without this, salvation is at stake. That great thinker and mystic Jesus compared heaven to a wedding feast. Well, we already know all about what it's like there. Anyway, on earth it is similar, but here there is no time or money for anything. Here is rather a kolkhoz of work. It is beautiful only in video clips and in pictures. But this is also something already. Listening to songs, watching pretty clips, admiring beauty in every form, the soul wakes up and begins to glow with love, spewing out happiness, like a hot volcano. 837. Everyone is a mystic because they have a mystical soul. Just pour your noble consciousness more powerfully into the body, and the world becomes beautiful, warm, and friendly. The soul is love. The only problem is the mind, words, which are often rigid and uncompromising. Words, languages, are an invention of man's ego. The soul does not use words but radiates love. In the human world, words are important, but they must be used gently. Otherwise, they become a powerful, hateful weapon. However, a softly spoken lie can be destructive. Therefore, the most important thing is love, in words and deeds. 838. If you go for a walk to relax, walk among meadows, trees, animals. Then don't do what you used to do according to old knowledge. That is, touch the trees, walk barefoot, bathe in a stream to draw power from nature. This is the old philosophy of handling consciousness. Your soul is the crown of creation, you know. So think about what you demand. It is the other way around. You, because of your soul, are the most powerful. Then, you should bestow animals, trees, flowers, grass, with your divine power blessings. Such is the unspeakable perverse truth. It is worth thinking about this when we go, for example, to bathe or sunbathe. Who is to give energy to whom? Is the sun to us, or we to the sun? The water to us, or us to the water? When you fall in love, you want to give yourself whole to another person. Do likewise with the world. Give the world the best you have. The best is to share energies, without boundaries, reciprocity. The planet also shares, metabolism mainly. 839. Let me say this. Already well before the Bible was produced at all, the 10 Commandments were known, and before Christianity was produced, the resurrection was known. The commandments of love were known. The Our Father was known. The sharing of the wafer of bread and the drinking of wine from the cup were known. So what is the Bible and by whom produced? And I will ask the question, for what purpose was it produced? For my own purposes, I myself have read the New and Old Testaments, probably 10 times, but I also studied Indian and Buddhist scriptures. There is a lot of spiritual knowledge in these non-Christian ones, which I would not say about the Bible. In it there is a lot of archaism, naivety, and hatred of others. The ideology of power religion using publicity gimmicks. Salvation is in us through love, however it is understood. Culture, kind words, not quarrelsome, yielding, not clinging, etc. Love that does not hurt. Love can exist no matter what, without ideology, without beliefs, without religion. This is what Jesus, the great philosopher, talked about. And this was his idea. Many times too, words were attributed to him that he never said. Religious politics, created for power over souls, is cruel. So many wars, almost all of them are the result of beliefs. Therefore, the rightful cry of Saint Francis of Assisi in the 12th century, "Why love is not loved?" Padre Pio told me that the Old Testament should be forgotten as soon as possible. 840. Fable. Rainy weather. And on top of that, a sad day on a planet that the gods once quarreled over. Because lo and behold, someone got a stomach ache and can't go get gold. And gold is needed for life to last. This time we ended up in a fairy tale, a little complicated, where the rulers of the kingdoms fight for influence. Doing a bad thing, changing the original algorithms. When they have done this, all the inhabitants often get a stomach ache. An unpleasant and unavoidable matter. Fortunately, in this fairy tale there is a natural remedy, which cures this ailment. And if you still have a good friend at hand, which will comfort and lift your spirits, joy quickly returns and life is happy again. The stomach stops hurting. 841. In noble love there is no shadow of imperfection, because in it there is all hospitality, kindness, affection, charm, romance. 842. If there is talk of reform, of the renewal of society, there must be talk of such love. If anyone says he loves God, and at the same time hates his brother, he is a liar. 843. To overcome anxieties, it is necessary to first overcome own unnecessary impulsiveness. Everything that is outside does not threaten us. Everything that is inside us is a source of anxiety. If you stopped reacting to the world, nothing would hurt you. If you became a dead stick, you would be fine. But you love too nervously, not gently enough, not tolerantly enough. Enjoy, love and observe the world, and it will not harm you. Be patient and set your mind on heavenly fairy tales, because eventually you will get there anyway. 844. The type of the perfect state will be the type of fraternal relations in search of freedom and well-understood, non-harmful progress. The structures of law and social systems that are created cannot be true and wise when love and reflection on life are excluded from them. The soul is the one who oversees the creative energy that constitutes every material action, introducing the substance of love into state offices and into every human heart, so as to create the maximum conditions for development and peace. This is the essence of efforts for a true state. It is difficult in modern conditions, so dependent on many political and systemic arrangements, to create an ideal way of life. It is not possible to replace one system of values immediately by another. It is necessary to wait for this, and above all, start educating in universities and schools. 845. The most suitable political system for a nation is an intellectual spiritual system. Geographical location for him does not play the slightest role. What counts is the knowledge of the subject. Speaking of the depth of this science, one cannot speak of empires, blocks of political powers, castes and confusing associations or parties. The science of the soul is not what it has in mind. However, in order to avoid splits in the formation of true statehood, it is necessary to apply the uniformity of science. And this can only give a universal pursuit of the ideal good. Without proper education, this cannot be achieved. First of all, schools need to change a lot in their statutes. Without the formed character of the child, subject education is of little use. The acquisition of knowledge, plus the lack of good character, actually brings only losses to society. Little attention is paid to this today, and it is decisive in economics, prosperity, and peace. 846. People enchanted by political or journalistic authorities, poorly aware of what is going on and the truth of their intentions, will defend and support them and even enter into relationships with them, because it seems to them that right is on their side. The spell of promises always attracts. So far, neither the state, nor trade unions, nor associations, nor political parties with a soul have yet to meet. What happened in the past and is happening now is merely a game of appearances. Ball of happiness. You were stabbed by a snowball and fire shot out of the pure snow white. Out of the ice cut by frost shot a glow of love the hottest, which will guess these embers latent. Breath of the Almighty has done it. Even frozen rivers have moved. It was not a moment of inattention. It happened at a vigil in anticipation of happiness. Now you know to whom you owe joy, and you know where your honey will carry you. You know who the flowers and warm milk, green gardens belong to. They spin your words of love like a white tablecloth decorated with embroidery. No longer frost, no longer ice trembles around you, but the fire of smiles warms your thoughts, heart, soul. Don't know how to reproach it by looking at the white flower in the shadow of stars. What a happy revival has wrapped you from all sides. 847. The study of the soul by the people confirms the social order, and at the base of this knowledge all balance and cooperation is strengthened. It is significant in modern times that the pursuit of money, political competition, try to dominate spiritual values. The intention of such features is to put forward the thesis that there are no basic spiritual values in human life. Of course, one cannot agree with this. For politicians, but not internal politicians, the most important thing is to have their own police, military groups, economic hubs, and money in the bank. So all that is purely for the protection of privatism. Politicians, dominated by their own egos, see only themselves on the various levels of their activities. To support their selfish aspirations, they will be ostensible altruists, educators, people of gesture, moral conduct, in a word, keeping a low profile. All of this they will do to cover their unholy intentions. Power, money, and such. 848. Love of neighbor. This is the first law of honest and joyful conduct in any society. Education creates role models, but they are not complete, so a lot of shifts need to be made on the educational stage. Readers should be given the whole truth, not its slickness. Every person has a need to experience deep messages about life. This essential joy should not be taken away from people because it is inhumane. A state system democratized and united with love increases all creative acts, increases the possibility of understanding freedom, and at the same time puts a dam against crises. Love provides benefits in every way. Padre Pio's words. Drawing knowledge from its wisdom, one makes life very economical, simple, joyful, and hopeful. A state with such a system is not even initiated yet, but it is possible, and the voice of the Spirit instructs us, and the signs of the times tell us that we can already think about it and slowly put it into practice. Talks and negotiations, sincerity and diplomacy in all circles of society will serve this purpose. 849. Established views, moral correctness follow to dislocate the spine of spirit. Beauty cries that people can't love everything, that they can't play like children. Adult children are in love. There is a lack of warmth, a lack of divine atmosphere. St. Francis of Assisi shouted in the streets, "Why love is not loved," and later made a sunny hymn, "Praised be the Lord with all your creatures, and above all with our brother sun, which the day gives, and you shine through it. It is beautiful and radiant, and through its brilliance it is your image, O Blessed One. Lord, be praised by our brother moon, and our star sisters. Lord, be praised by our brother wind, through the air and clouds, through the weather and all the time changes, which you feed your creatures. Lord, be praised through our sister water, which is of great use, and humble and precious and pure. Lord, be praised by our brother fire, with which you light up the night, and it is beautiful and joyful, fervent and powerful." 850. Outer beauty is deceptive, transient. External beauty envies the spirit. It tries to imitate it. That's why there is still some beauty on the planets in purgatory. 851. Today, God, I sputtered at you as much as possible. But you know, after all, that's not what I meant. I have known you from this side for a long time. You forgive everyone, not only vulgarities. Sometimes I think you are a little too good for me. But I prefer you like this than any other saint, because with you I feel safe with my faults. 852. To see otherwise is to make a hole in the shirt of the world. 853. I don't want to just breeze. I want to make bigger jumps to jump faster over time. 854. We don't have much influence because we don't have a supply of divine inspiration. We have plugged ears. 855. If you're as good as God, I take everyone's word for it. Grumpy Catholicism too. But think, mushrooms are edible too, if you clean and process them properly. 856. Nice song, it's like a desperate cry for happiness. 857. You are free as much as you sit down for a while. 858. Such is the longing, the nature of the soul, to belong to everyone. But only mysticism can make this available to us deeply and bluntly, piercing our heart with the arrowhead of love until we feel the pain of delight. 859. I am beginning to understand that our soul is made of smile petals, which has nothing to do with limitations. Everything that is not a charming smile of delight is for the soul a millstone around the neck of life. Not sensing the melody of love. 860. The proper formation of the spirit takes place under the banner of mental work and self-limitation. But no one who does not recognize his depth will not want to self-restrict. Love is a great knowledge that motivates positive self-withdrawal when a conflict of interest is perceived. Love is always good. 861. Actions devoid of hubris and exaggeration can effectively put society on the path of truly civilized formation. acquiring a good and friendly character, and providing it with the latest technology to the extent of internal refinement. Why must there be this degree of refinement? So that technology does not fall into the hands of irresponsible people and become a threat to the environment. Self-restraint is necessary. Jesus talked about this when he suggested self-denial. Such an obvious and beautiful thing. In love, it is necessary to be able, in certain intimate situations, but not only to withdraw so as not to inflict pain. 862. A society can function normally in the laws created by itself only if the laws of tolerance, democracy, self-control and moderation in ambition and financial needs are observed. 863. No one can be saved from trouble and wars if respect, courtesy, tolerance, not insisting on own, not sticking to literal rules, fraternity, virtue and modesty in wealth cease to be of interest to people, and especially to the authorities, including local governments at all levels, directors, bosses, managers, etc. Trouble will only escalate. Education in spite of everything. Courses for politicians and officials from love, mandatory. Free of charge, at the expense of the budget, the taxpayer. It pays off 100-fold for everyone. 864. The victory of truth does not lie in state revolutions, currents of different knowledge, slogans of pseudo-wisdom, muddled philosophy of thought, or mortification of the flesh. Truth can be found in the midst of the noblest values in simplicity. Moderation and humility lead directly to the understanding of timeless, universal values contained in admiration or goodness, which brings the deepest happiness and joy to every person. Earthly, physical love, heavenly, spiritual love are one and the same. Openness, understanding. 865. If the authorities had sincerely, without appearances and media manipulation, held on to divinity itself, all would be well. But party leaders, state leaders, and even the clergy of churches have strayed from the love of man. Alcohol is not the reason for this, but pride and glamour. 866. Spiritual stagnation, stagnation in the development of gentleness and nobility, has caused false ideologies and erroneous paths of progress, which life has deprived of love and honesty. For this reason, human law, unfortunately, is obligatory for the safety of those who want to live with dignity, justice, and security. Whose fault is this? Nobody's. It has been dragging on for billions of years. The origins are unknown. That's how long ago it was. But here and now some change could be made. It is necessary to speak about it loudly and subtly at the same time. Sometimes, however, bang your fist on the parliamentary rostrum to rouse everyone there from spiritual slumber. The intellect sometimes rapes the soul. Politicians most often commit this, but also scientists, journalists, etc. Many of us do it. It is necessary to grow out of it as soon as possible. 867. The first right is the right to love, followed by the right to freedom, culture, and all human values. Pressure of man on man even through rights. This is a kind of pathology. The normal state is trust and freedom, but people must come to this themselves to preserve such freedom. First, it must be learned. Only ignorance and wickedness creates unnecessary laws, regulations, and barriers around us. Honest people don't really need any laws, because love never does evil. Intuition tells them what to do at any given moment so as not to hurt anyone. 868. Any law created by humans without humility and reference to the knowledge of the Almighty is dysfunctional in relation to the harmony of the world. In order to create good laws, it is necessary to be recognized by sovereign love. In other words, one has to acquire the right degree of wisdom to make laws work properly and to make as few of them as possible. The most intelligent know this. True love abolishes all law. The intelligent can seek and find. The intelligentsia less equipped with love only seek and discuss, but achieve nothing. They do not create good solutions. Perhaps their personal careers strongly interfere with this. Career is promoting oneself to the exclusion of others. If someone makes a career, they can, but let them do it as if they were not making a career. All laws and constitutional tribunals are a blight on the fabric of love. No one gives way because love loses. Is this the way it should be? And yet, Lord, you are the last of the last on this earth. Everyone lives their own life. No one wants to learn your wisdom and education. Literature speaks of you, Lord. There is less and less already, and great art is made for name and money rather than for the general good. In teaching, love is considered a ridiculous thing. It's gotten to the point that talking about love makes someone abnormal, and yet such a modern attitude in our time is precisely abnormal. Defending against the strokes of love is a testament to great intellectual and spiritual immaturity. It is downright immoral. Lord, how this world has completely turned away from your holy truths. They exchanged love for pride. 869. In offices, schools, in state systems of one kind or another, it is difficult to have selfless love. It is easy to see. The law is more important than human beings. The callousness and horrors of legal language. Should a mother towards her child behave like a qualified lawyer? And who is a human being? Someone's mother's child. Seeking a solution on the level of purely human sensations will not solve anything. And in a democratic system there are distortions, betrayals, provocations, bandits and wars. Freedom and liberty must be sought much deeper, on the level of tenderness and sensitivity of the soul. Tolerance and forbearance are a much higher virtue than heartless law. As St. Paul, to whom I have many reservations, stated, the law came through sin. That is, the direct cause of the law is the departure of angels from heaven. There are no rules or any law in heaven. That's why angels can even leave heaven and go into the unsuccessful cosmos. As just in our case, without consequences. Suffering is solely our invention. Once we understand this rule, the law will give way to love. But it is quite a long way. Politics and education spoil a lot. 870. God, why do I feel beauty? Why do I feel with my senses? Why do I feel with my soul? Why do I feel? Why do I feel? Why do I feel? I don't know and I'll never know again. But I thank you that I feel. Where do these gifts come from that make me so happy? I don't know anything, except that they delight. 871. The power of a lure is creativity, creating a fairy tale world of love whose goal is endless aimlessness, eternally pleasurable. 872. Tuning the body in beautiful clothes and dresses. This is the closest expression of tuning the soul to divine allure and enchantment. Did I say something wrong? Maybe I caved, but I feel that there is something to it. I've heard that in heaven everyone has their own palace and dresses in a different outfit every day to impress others. Out of pure love and for perfect beauty. Padre Pio told me that he sees my angel every day in a different dress. 873. To be in love for everyone at everyone's disposal. This is servitude in terms of the universal God. We in heaven have the whole heaven at our disposal. In that perfect world, everyone will be yours, because there you don't marry or get married. Even our great philosopher and magnificent, emotional angel Jesus, the savior of our thinking, spoke of this. 874. Just to make me understand where and why I live, for what reason I am in trouble. Actually, I don't get out much, and I so long for a perfect life. 875. Disease and death are not in the domain of eternal thinking. This appeared as a result of the creation of heavy matter, galaxies, which are artificially maintained by space scientists for unpleasant purposes. Heaven is somewhere else, and it has nothing to do with this creation of worlds by angels. Jesus, the great philosopher, said that he himself came to earth from heaven, that he is not from this fateful world. Hardly, he proposed to renounce these galaxies, this world. He came to help regain knowledge and love, but it got muddled. He was not in his review, so they persecuted him, and knowledge disappeared. Hence, in every era, someone similar appears to remind this knowledge, so that all the angels will one day return to the source, to heaven. The greatest amount of this knowledge still remains in India. But you have to be able to choose the books, and not everything is correct there. But there are many more than in our country Catholics. Still in India, something of this knowledge of the spirit remains. With us, everything has disappeared. Padre Pio's words. With us, there is actually nothing left. Zero. The archives of spiritual and cosmic knowledge have been cleared.